The big foreign news today is the death of Iran's president in a helicopter crash. Ebrahim Raisi first became infamous as a judge sentencing thousands of political prisoners to death. He yesterday went to open a new hydroelectric dam with Azerbaijan's president on their common border. He took off with Iran's foreign minister next to him and crashed in the mountains in a heavy mist and rain. The wreckage has now been found. No survivors. Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan of The Australian. Greg Sheridan, thanks for joining me en route. There are Iranians in mourning. I've seen pictures of that. But there's also several unverified videos of other Iranians setting off fireworks in celebration at this death. Why would that be? Who is this guy?
Well, Raisi was a very central figure in the Iranian regime. He was extremely ideological, very bloodthirsty judge. He was responsible for the deaths of a lot of dissidents, and he was a fully paid up leading member of the very totalitarian and oppressive Islamist ideology which runs Iran, and which also tolerates a great deal of financial corruption, but which has the leading characteristic that it's the most oppressive totalitarian Islamist regime in the Shia world, certainly.
Now, Israel and Iran have been firing missiles at each other. That's as part of Israel's war with Hamas. Iran is sponsoring Hamas like many other terrorist groups around the world. Could Israel actually have brought down this helicopter?
I think that's extremely unlikely, Israel has not targeted Iranian government leaders. It has, on occasions in the past, targeted military leaders, especially from Iran, especially when they are in Syria and conducting operations against Israel, or if they're in Iraq doing the same thing. This would be a very radical departure for Israel, and I don't think there'd be much upside to it, honestly.
And I must say I've seen no evidence for it either, but it'll be interesting if Iran decides in its interest to somehow suggest Israel's complicit. Iran is actually, look, you've written this, I don't know how often, a part of a new axis of tyranny, really, with Russia, China, North Korea, all cooperating relatively closely. It's an alliance that seems increasingly dominated by China. Russia used to be the big guys in the neighbourhood. Now it's definitely China. Look, I might be seeing too much in this, Greg, but I thought it was fascinatingly obvious last Thursday when Russian President Vladimir Putin came to visit China's President Xi Jinping, who made Putin walk to him for a greeting and showed in all his body language, as a master of it, who was boss, before finally offering him a hug when they said goodbye. Now, China's publicly backed Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. What was decided at this meeting, do we know?
Well, I think this was the 19th or 20th time that Vladimir Putin has travelled to Beijing. You're absolutely right, Andrew. There's no doubt at all Xi Jinping is the dominant figure in this four-part alliance, and think that the West is almost stretched beyond capacity by the actions of the two medium members of this alliance, Russia and Iran, each of them much, much less powerful than China. If China and North Korea acted simultaneously with Russia and Iran, it'd be very hard for the United States to cope because the rest of us do almost nothing at all. I don't think we got any really revolutionary announceables out of this meeting. China is continuing to supply Russia with a lot of dual-use technology, not with lethal weapons per se, but with technologies which are easily adaptable for dual-use purposes. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken doesn't think Russia would have been able to stay in the war without Chinese support. And the Biden administration has been, as you'd expect, completely weak in responding to China basically ensuring that the sanctions regime against Russia is toothless. Now, the friends of China would say it has prevailed on Russia not to use nuclear weapons, but it's very unclear to me Russia would have used nuclear weapons without Chinese restraint. But China empowers Russia, and so does North Korea by selling it missiles, and Russia and Iran in turn empower China.